Hey everybody, this is another episode of Comic Book Hero with
Calvin Ellis, the resident comic book hero, and I'm being supported by my good friend Petey. Say hello to everybody.
Hey everybody. How you doing?
So we were having a discussion the other day, or actually not too long ago, about the state of the comic book market. And you might be out there looking at books that you could have gotten for $1, and guys are asking a little bit more for it. Instead of $1, I don't know, maybe like $10 or $20. And you're wondering what the hell is going on. Why am I paying so much more for Battlestar Galactica? So we're going to have a quick discussion over here just to let you know where the comic book market is, and what's changed, and where what you should know about it.
Well, my struggle is I wanted to buy, I was thinking I might need to replace some books that might be lost in the flooding of the basement, lost in the move, or maybe someone took it from my father's house when I was a kid, right? both places, right? Unguarded comics. But I was just saying, hey, these New Mutants. Maybe if I had to, I'm looking at so sparse the issues I had. I'm like, I don't necessarily need to see because ultimately I also would want to see the what's that thing? The letter pages, because you can go to scans and do this, that, and the other, but at the same time you can't get like the letter pages, the certificate of authorship, that stuff in those scans. It's so haphazard on some of the scans out there. So I'm like saying it'll be good to make sure I thought I already had that stuff. So let me replace it. I go online, and I also wanted to do a video talking about that. It's like, oh, this Asgard period must be cheap. Everybody hate Brett Belvins. They hate this guy. He's one of the best artists out there. Only thing that he drew the New Mutants as kids, and everyone got upset. And then I'm like, this whole period that Rob Liefeld said is worthless. Nobody was buying it. It's $10 each for very fine issues. How did this happen? That's my question. How the bleep did this happen?
Well, we got a couple things going on. One, I feel your pain about the situation of people taking books from you. This happened to me, and having to replace them. I've had to do that a couple of times over the years, and definitely feel your pain on flooding. Good grief. Am I the only person? If you've ever put your books in a cellar or an attic, you know good and well how water will come over there and just, oh, good grief. Anyway, well, what happened is that comic guys finally, well, time ran out. If you're a comic book buyer, you had a buyer's market for a considerably long time. You had low inflation in terms of how much comic books cost, and with the exception of books that were considered by comic book buyers to be, books of value, everything else was pretty much, you name your price, you could get it. You had $100, you could go crazy at the flea market. That changed. You got a lot of guys who came into comic books with definitely with the Marvel films, but also with just the appreciation of the value overall. The comic books as a market was undervalued for a very, very long time. Now, I understand if you're trying to go get a run of Battlestar Galactica, and this guy's like, $10, what? How much for those 3 issues? Or even the Liefeld stuff. But the thing is, those books were always there, and at any particular time you could have picked them up. Most guys are deciding to pick them up at the time that everybody else is trying to pick them up, and that's where your prices are going up. The Liefeld stuff especially, there was always a following for Liefeld, but nobody really cared because they were like, hey, the books are always going to be there. Every time you went to the store, it was always on the wall until the day it wasn't. Now you're looking for it and you realize, oh, you're late. It's not on anybody's wall. Hey, what the heck happened? There's a lot of, you got new interest in comics, and I mean, just the overall value of comics was very much undervalued. So you had books that were selling for $1, should have been 10 a long time ago, and it finally caught up. And it's not like it caught up over the course of 3 or 4 years, caught up like within the space of a year, 6 months. So that really, that's really some sticker shock to a lot of guys. But some of the books, if you look at them, are where they should be in terms of pricing. There's no reason that a comic book in the Copper Age, Bronze Age, that was a 35-cent comic or a 65-cent comic, and this was an issue by a particular writer, particular artist. They have a fan base, and it's only selling for $1. no, it was just really undervalued for a very, very long period of time. You look at any of the other collectibles markets and the appreciation of even mainstay stuff in terms of toys or stamps or coins or baseball cards or anything in the card market for that matter. And the appreciation across the board is always, is always there. With comics, comic book guys have had a very nice run of low prices or stable prices when it comes to the secondary market. And the only thing they had to worry about were prices increasing on the on the primary, with the initial market. But not so much any longer.
Well, with that said, let me just go to Battlestar Galactica and show you what I'm talking about.
Uh-oh.
So pissed off. Now look at this, right? Here we go. This is I bought a lot of stuff from my comic shop and also new Cadia, that stuff. And I'm like, I'm not gonna flip out because issue a new mint is $26. Only difference
Okay.
I bought that for I think I got these for like $3 a comic book, the whole thing from either New Cadia or Comic Shop. So they put this up. I probably got maybe I even got this one. Maybe I got the 390. Maybe that's what I bought. I bought a very fine one. I was okay with. I got basically this whole thing, right? But as you go through it, yeah, maybe they put it up 60 cents more than what it was when I got these books. So I really wanted to see Walter Simonson and Klaus Jansen's work together. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna see something that's interesting as you go along. A CGC copy here, $96. Now what the hell? Why is that? Why the hell is that cost that much? CGC copy, here we can see scans. One for 9.8.
Well,
What the hell was that? That is totally ridiculous. Shouldn't it be like 10?
well, this is one of the premier comic sites. My comic shop, they're one of the premier comic sites. So they're going to be able to charge more because they have a really strong following in terms of people coming there, and they have had it for a certain amount of years. And they can put it up for this price because they realize they don't need to sell it tomorrow. When it sells at the end of the day. So that's just how they'll go about their pricing. However, I mean, comic books decided that they were not going to be. I mean, we discussed this. We've been reading comics for years. You would think that something like the Great Darkness Saga, that should be worth a whole bunch of money, right? Because that was like a great story. You put everything together, you got the whole set. It was such a great story. And you get like really nice copies, that sort of stuff that should be worth money. And that you can get really cheap for the most part in comparison, because they decided that we're going to collect comics like we're collecting baseball cards or something. We're just going to go by first appearances. That's the rookie card. And then we're just going to go for the errors and the recalls and, the low print, that type of stuff. And that's how we're going to go about collecting it. So that changes the whole dynamic. So now you look at something like Battlestar Galactica. Okay, you want a graded copy of Battlestar Galactica and it's in the highest grade, a 9.8 for a comic, equivalent to a baseball card would be a 10. You're going to pay a lot more. You're going to pay a lot more money for it. And then a lot of guys don't realize what goes into it. When you get a graded copy is the cost of whatever you paid for the book, whatever it costs for grading, whatever it costs for pressing if that book was pressed, and and for the shipping back and forth. So a lot of guys just think a graded book, $30. Like, no. A lot of time the cost for a graded book is like upwards of $30-$40. That was a while ago. I don't know what it is right now. It might be more. And these guys, like, you're paying for all of that stuff as well, unless you wanted to go grade it yourself. So that's part of it.
All right, so then you're gonna play. This. I'm just joking. You're gonna play that game, huh? That's what you're gonna do to me. Well, it makes sense that there is a cost to doing that stuff, so I can't fault them. It's just crazy for that. But it's like, all right, so that's the case. What was I thinking? I was thinking of something else here. That was I mean, we could do Legion, which I was looking at recently, and the one the problem is, and I think I got I was pricing out this, and I got like very fine. I got this down to almost $3 a comic, which I bought. I think I bought those in the 2000s for that much, and it got to 50. I think on New Cadia it was up to 70. But of course, the issue that they don't hold it, they do not have it here. To looks like which this is 288, the one with Dark Side. Is that there? Oh no, that's not it.
No.
Which one is the
With the dark side reveal?
yeah? The
Man,
two,
I just looked at that the other day. What is that? Is it 290, 290, 293, 294?
possibly is, yeah. Okay, that's where I guess I stopped in. They don't have that here. You have to get that. That one is costly now. It was just like, all right, guys, you're like for an appearance. That would mean the Justice League appearance would be what? Like, oh no, that's not a big enough story, but it's not memorable. But it was a good story when Justice League fought the Dark Side soon after Kirby left. I guess that's not soon after. That was the next big. That was the first story that they did before the return after the new return of the New Gods. Yeah, I mean, it just of having the problem is that's what I'm saying with the CGC copy. All I'm gonna do is rip it open and toss that stuff to the side because I'm like that's the issue. The Pat Broderick and who's that? And Terry Austin issue and was it the great Ed Barretto? That Eduardo Barretto, that dude. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm pulling that book out the thing. You telling me I can't pull it out the plastic sleeve?
No, you can't.
That ain't right.
Well, hey, if you buying oh man, it's tough because I've done the same thing. Like I'll say, look, I'm not buying a graded copy because I just want a ungraded copy anyway. I rather sometimes I don't mind a graded copy. Other times it's like, look, I want a nice looking copy, and I'll think whatever it is the grade is. I don't want anybody else to supersede what I believe this grade is at the end of the day. But I'm going to spend that much money just to break it out? No. And if you just want to read it, then it becomes, I mean, guys don't want to hear this. Well, go get a trade, go get the trade paperback and see, if you can get there. Now that will be some sticker shock for guys as well, because you might say, well, all right, let me go see about getting the trade. I just want to read these. And then you realize the trade is expensive. Why? Because the trade is out of print. Look at if you were to look right now, they did a hardcover edition of the Legion of Superheroes, the Darkness Saga. I got that when it first came out. Must have been like 20, $30 when it first came out. Hardcover. Now it's like 120, $130 if you wanted to get that in hardcover. It's out of print. Okay. It was top shelf, hardcover with the dust jacket. Now, yeah, you're gonna have to pay some money for that at the end of the day. So timing is also the situation. When do you want it? Do you want it when it came out? Well, did you know when it came out, or you discovered now that you want it? Well, it's not in print. If you want the regular copy, you're going to have to pay more money. If you want a nice hardcover edition, you're going to have to pay even more money. There's no trades. And so you're stuck unless you're going to go really hardcore and say, well, I'm just going to live digital.
Yeah. Problem. Yeah, that's hard, but I don't want. That's the thing. I don't want to go to Nucadia and get Black Panther #1 that looks like the trade edition, which is the slick paper. Like, look at this. I mean, I get it. No, I don't get it. Like, nobody. This is not a classic story. This #1 has the same when we talked earlier about the She-Hulk. There's no reason why no one's beating their door to get this sort of thing, and they're just like, it's hotcakes now. This is the hottest series ever.
Oh, what? This? See, this is Black Panther is a perfect example of a comic guys having it so good. They had it so good for so long. And it's just recently now all of a sudden these guys, what? I gotta pay money? No. It's always supposed to be, it's always supposed to be this buyer market. I don't know any other collectibles market that had it their way for like what, decades?
I'm not saying this is not this is I'm saying not for the people that looks and say, hey, now I want to be able to resell it. I was just saying have it and actually
even those guys, if you're a Black Panther fan, and you never picked up the Black Panther series with the Kirby issues, then I only shrugged my shoulders like, what were you doing? I mean, there was a point if I wanted to sell those, I couldn't have given those books away. Okay, nobody wanted it. Even worse, if you want to look for the first appearance of the Black Panther, Fantastic Four 52, you could have got that, a really nice copy, high grade copy. You could have got that for a couple $100. You could have got that for a couple $100. That's how little interest people had in it. All of a sudden now there's a movie, and even before that, people realize, oh wow, Fantastic Four 52 is actually a rare book. That, why is this so cheap? Then you have, oh wait a minute, this is the first Black superhero for Marvel Comics. All the stuff starts to filter in. Then you start doing the cross stuff. Jack Kirby did this. This was Jack Kirby's last work with the Black Panther. Oh, all of a sudden now, more interest, more money into it, and the guys who've been holding, like, well, wait a second. Okay, this was cheap for for the longest period of time. You guys didn't want it. Now you guys want to make a run on it? No, I'm going to get my money. Okay,
Well,
I'm going to get my money.
that's the thing. I'm saying that's why I'm going through my collection. I don't know that I had the first issue, but like I in the '90s, I did went besides reprints. I bought a lot of this stuff, so I don't think I had this, but I definitely had two through. I don't think I had the. I had definitely had this. I don't think I had 11, so I had like 2 through 10. I hadn't got. I don't. I hadn't got these two issues after that. So those are, I think, when I kind of stopped my like buying. But there was a period where I had like most of the Kirby stuff. But it's just like I'm not gonna be able to go and go to the store and say, hey, I got a mint copy of Black Panther 11. That should be like that'd be, let's go very fun. Let's go 30. I got it for $30, right? Oh no, they just the CGC, right? They can't use the what is this? No, it's not. It doesn't say it's a CGC. But say I got that and better quality. I'm asking 30. They're gonna say $1. Like when they say what's the thing? What's that show? Oh man, trading was it trading places where he says in what's the name is $50 in comic books is $1. It's like, no, look at this, it's a Black Panther issue. She's like, no, we sell it for that. You sell it for nothing. You're not getting nothing out of it. But I'm saying that's what I was, if I can, hopefully I can find them. I'm not sure if I still have them, but I wanted to do a show on this, but it's just like, look at that. I can't decide to go back and buy that stuff again.
No, you can't. And it's with more than likely, I mean, this is probably not going to be the same situation that occurred. This is probably not going to be the same situation that occurred with those bubbles where, the prices went up dramatically and then they, decrease, then, the bottom dropped out because, the fundamentals are definitely different. They're definitely different. But I look at the stuff and you're like, hey, you had of course not you, but if you're the collector, it's like you had a shot at this. You had a shot at this a long time ago. You didn't pull the trigger on it. You're running now that everybody else is running for it. Everybody else is running for it. It's going to drive up. It's going to drive up the price. Overall. But that's just simple. That's just simple market stuff at the end of the day. But the other problem is, and this I put on comic collectors. Too many times, comic collectors treated comic books like they had no value. Okay, that they were worthless and they were whatever value you would put on it. Like this book, this should only be worth $1, and that's what they were going to pay for it. Now you're competing with people who say, well, wait a second, no, I actually think this has more value to it because of X and Y, Z reason. And these guys are collectors, not necessarily comic book collectors, but they're collectors. They'll collect stamps, they'll collect coins, they'll collect books. And they bring that mentality in, and they'll bring that mentality into it. So the guy who's buying the book for 10, he's like, okay, one day I want to sell this. I'm not selling it for less than 10. The comic book mentality was like, hey, just give me some money. Just give me some money and I'm okay, because this stuff is pretty much And I have never seen a collectibles market where the people who profess to really love the market, rather the things that they're collecting, have so little regard for the value of it, the story value, the art value. You have certain books that are over 50, 60 years old in great condition, and they don't want to pay any money for it. Yeah. So, that for me has always been like, you got to be kidding me. When you get to like trade paperbacks and the hardcovers, those become books. And the book mentality takes over, not the comic book mentality, but the book mentality takes over. First edition, whether or not it's out of print, all that stuff takes over at the end of the day. So, again, comic book guys, I mean, even now, guys are complaining, oh, comic books, $4, $5. Oh, I'm done. I'm like, yeah, you should be. If you're a grown person and you can't afford a $5 comic book or as many as you would like, then you're in the wrong collectibles market and you should go someplace else or just stick with the dollar bins at the end of the day. But that's saying a lot, because that's saying that you really don't believe this has any particular value aside the value that you're going to put on it. And that's not how these things work. When they shoot up, a lot of guys, and I told guys this some years back, I said, if they're books that you want to get, you should get them now, because eventually the prices are going to go up and a lot of guys are going to be priced out. And they're being priced out. And I hear a lot of sour grapes, so on and so forth. But the bottom line is, these books were on the shelves for I don't know how long. You could have got a full run of Commandy. You could have got a full run of Commandy for whatever you wanted. Guys would have been like happy to give it to you. You could have got a full run of Commandy, like, here you go, here's $1 and some stamps. Here you go, Commandy. All yours at the end of the day. Now you can't do that because full runs are harder, complete collected runs are much harder to find and much harder to put together than they were 5 or 6 years ago. So, that's just the state of affairs right now. And then you got the guys who, and these I think are the worst ones. These are the guys who come over and they're like, oh, you know what? We want to, I'm going to wait till the prices go down, or they're hoping for some sort of implosion so they can get back cheap prices. No, that's just wrong. This is actually good for comics overall. When you have people in here who are buying, who are willing to spend money on it and see it as a viable collectibles market, that's great. That's great. Everybody should be happy. That means the books that you have one day, if you decide to sell them, you could actually think about actually making some money if you have, a good collection. It was well maintained. You got, really good, really great books. That's what you would want at the end of the day. You either you sell them or you leave them to someone and you pass on. I would think that's what everybody would want at the end of the day. So right now, you just have a situation where it's been a buy. I mean, most guys get a buyer's market for what? 3 years, 4 years. This is somebody over here who's getting a buyer's market. These are people who've had a buyer's market for decades. And it's tough. I can dig it. It's tough.
Well, let's see. This is where we show that it's actually, I'm going to show you that it's actually, this is the real price, right? Here's Dave Johnson. This is like his last, he did backups in, I think, Wildcats for a while. But this is a very coveted comic book artist, right? And some of these image books are still worth under the $3 thing, because I was like, hey, $3 in the aughts makes sense. This is under that for Liberty and Justice, and I was just like, see, this is what it should be. But at the same time, when you go to Robert Kirkman's work, not in stock. And the print run is probably so small on this, it's probably going to cost you a ton of money to get these things if they ever put it back up. What do you think? Do you think this is going to be a high price book or not?
No.
Well, that's a good place to end. The image books still worth nothing except for a couple key issues.
The image books, unfortunately, are from that period in the '90s where everybody pretty much agrees that the comic sucks, and they weren't any good. Plus, there's they said everything is low print on those issues. Mm-hmm. But I'm still even those issues at low printed issues are still probably pretty higher. Oh no, that's Robert Kirkman. Yeah, that's probably a low printed issue, like the Invincible stuff that he was doing. So yeah, along those lines. But you never know. Sometimes guys get a show or a movie and it takes off and there's some interest in it. But overall, that period right there is really tough, because that's the other thing is that these aren't comic buyers who were buying comics like in the 80s or the 70s. Most of these guys are from the 90s, and they just remember when things imploded. And, you had a long box full of what? Youngblood. And you had a long box full of Youngblood and Bad Rock, whatever it was. And you thought you were going to send your kid to college on this stuff. And then, you showed up at the comic store with the long box of it. They were like, what are you trying to do with that trash? Don't bring it here. Leave it out there. Leave it out there on the sidewalk.
Breaking people's heart when they got Bad Rock and Company. I mean, that's like all of the image characters in like everyone's create own character in the Bad Rock book. And you're saying that Ripclaw, whoever else is in that book, the Amazing Man, whoever that guy was, Mighty Man, that was it, Mighty Man from what's the name? It's just the thing. Only person, the only person that remembers the name of some of these image guys is like me and Paris Cullens, because Paris
Yep.
Cullens was talking to us about Troll, and nobody. But anyway,
Well,
all right, I'm gonna
you look
close
at
this. No, sorry.
you look at no, because you look at that. What's it now? Like, look at Eric Larson, and we I think we both agree on we both have the same appreciation for Eric Larson. So, but the Savage Dragon, that was a low printed book, and at one point those books were like $1. But then it became very obvious. Hey, I can't find these books. So if I want to get a complete thing of Savage Dragon, it's going to cost me more because they're just not there. You're talking about a book that had, anywhere between 3 and 8,000 copies printed, and you've got a comics, you've got a comic book market of, at least 1 million readers at any particular given time. That's really low printed at the end of the day. So even those books went up in price. And I'm talking about the condition of when I sell some of them, like what would be $1 for some guys, I'm selling between 5 and 10, and these are just regular issues.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened in them. Wasn't like a great cover or anything of that nature or first appearance, just regular issues. But they tick up because, yeah, there's interest. But now, if you're somebody who says, oh, I want to rebuild the collection or I want to have a complete run, you are going to pay more for it, right? Now you're going to pay more for it. That's just it. You're going to pay more for it. If you're a smart buyer, you're conscientious, you'll be able to, get some nice deals here and there. But, the a real collector collects. A real collector collects. They don't moan, okay, and they don't grimace. You go out, and if you want the book, you get the book. Otherwise, you don't really want it. And if the whole idea is you only want it at a certain price, well, you don't want it. Not every book is Action Comics 1. Some of these books will cost a little bit more, but if you genuinely want it for your collection, you can probably get it at a better price, if not a reasonable price. But if double-digit numbers on a comic book is what's keeping you from buying it, then you're probably just in the wrong market. You should go and maybe collect something else.
Wow, that's terrible. But anyway, see, the last thing to show you, look at that. I wanted a very fine copy of Savage Dragon. That's $5. If I want the CBCS, the near mint, $100. CGC 9.8, even more than that.
Yeah.
Lord, good Lord, that's a lot of
Well,
money.
hey, that's top shelf. It's third party. You know that it's in pristine condition. There's only 2 grades higher than that, 9.9 or a 10, and you'd be paying a lot more money if it was in those particular conditions. The thing is, that's Savage Dragon 1, and a graded copy of Savage Dragon #1, you will pay less money for a 9.8 of that than Savage Dragon 33. That's the irony at the end of the
But
day.
what's up with that issue?
That issue, lower print run, and it's a crossover with Spawn.
Oh my gosh. You can get,
Yeah,
you can, that's,
it's the dynamics of that particular book. I mean, I know when we were growing up, #1 was like the top issue. No issue was going to be worth more than #1, right? Now it's like, hey, no, the first issue sold 1 million copies. The 33rd issue only sold like 4,000 copies. That's the issue that's hard to get, and that's how, and that actually makes sense. That a harder, rarer, lower printed issue that people want should, be more expensive at the end of the day. But that's what guys fail to take into account. They really fail to take into account. A lot of them go to, I've done shows where the guys show up and they, have this incredible amount of sticker shock, and they're like, how much? Why is it so expensive? This, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. It's like, because it's not 1983. Milk doesn't cost $1. Bread isn't 10 cents, and this comic book isn't 35 cents. It's just, that's just not where it's at this point. And again, you still have you can go to a show. A lot of guys still do $1 books, $2 books, $3 books. So you can still try to go crazy over there. But the other hypocrisy is that they don't want those books. They don't want the books that you can find in the dollar bin, the $2 and the $3 bin. You want the more expensive stuff to be $1. Okay, come on, admit it. You want the more expensive stuff that you know who you are. That's what you really want, and that's why you're moaning.
okay, so then here we are. You got your 33, right?
Right.
look at this is all kinds of bad, right? Not just bad because of the subject matter, is that this the Savage Dragon's girlfriend, who I think was like an exotic dancer or something like that, chick has still got her earrings on during the childbirth. Like, what is going on here? Like, anything else you say, well, okay, this is pregnancy. You could have had that shot. The earrings throw it off, to ruin the whole thing. The whole thing you say, well, this is you can point out all the other bad stuff, but it's just like you're not gonna just take the earrings off. No, how will we know it's not? How will the fans know? It's so old school Marvels. The fans won't know who it is. You gotta have them. You have to have Clark Kent in the same color outfit every issue. That
You
sort of
think
thing.
you think the you think the earrings are bad, not the hard nipples. The ear it's the earrings.
Dude, this is nuts.
That's oh,
Yeah.
come on. That's a straight play right over there. That's straight up. That's a straight Eric Larson cover, but it works.
Anyway, that's the thing. The these are I think the only couple that I think I kept this one and this one was a Hellboy, and then I think I have 100 issue 100, but it was the one book I was looking at for but until 75. But anyway, all right. There's I think I've gotten all my questions answered. Is there anything else you wanted to tell us, sir?
Hey, it's a brave new world out there, people. Don't be like me. I missed out on a great book. I could have got it for $50. I had to end up buying a graded copy because I did the same thing. Oh, it's too expensive. I don't want to pay this money. I'll catch it later when it's cheaper. The price never went down. And then what was worse, they stopped. I couldn't find a copy that wasn't graded. And then it became, well, either I want the book or I don't. And I wanted the book, so I paid it. I paid the graded price. Don't put yourself in that position. If you really like something, try to get it when it comes out. Sometimes the price goes down, but sometimes it doesn't. And then then you're stuck. And I know what it's like to be a collector. You never stop wanting that book. You never stop wanting that book. It's just, it's, I always think it's a real sad thing when you have to look, man, I could have had that book, but I was cheap. I could have had that book, but I didn't pull the trigger on it. Not everything's about selling to resell. A good portion of it's like, I just want this book in my collection. I want to read it and I want to own it. And I could have owned it if I was just a little bit more savvy to how this works. So don't put yourself in that situation. You want it, go out there and go get it, and get it within a timely manner, so you don't have to worry about the price going up at the end of the day. And for you guys who are hoping, oh, I can't wait for the whole implosion. I can't wait for all the COVID money to leave. I can't wait for all of this. See, you guys over there, you guys are wrong. You're wrong, because this is actually good for old comic books overall, and you're thinking about yourself. So don't be a selfish bastard or a cheap bastard at that. Okay, it's good overall. Just go out there and take part in it as best as you can. There's plenty of room for everybody in there, but don't hate on the market. Right, don't hate on the market now after you had over 2 decades of having it your way.
All right then. Comic book
Spinnerack
hero, Spinner Rack out.
out.